Alright, so good afternoon guys. I'm doing another makeup tutorial. I didn't plan on all my tutorials to be all about makeup, but I feel most comfortable starting off my channel that way. I have a lot of ideas in my head and a lot of inspiration and a lot of things I just want to share. So I have mentioned in prior tutorials about I believe one of my first videos about contouring. I kind of got the gist on how to record here on YouTube, that you do need to keep it within about 15 minutes to 29 seconds of your film, and really keeping it under 15 minutes so you won't have any problems uploading. But I will probably continue to break it up because this is going to be a really extensive tutorial, mainly focusing on contouring. But I wanted to start my look without any makeup on my face. Obviously, I started with a clean face. I spoke in other tutorials on what my skincare regimen normally is. But today, I did wear a lot of makeup yesterday. So if you look at my tutorial I posted yesterday, you will see the amount of makeup I did and how extensive I went with it. Today is probably going to be very similar to that, but it won't be the same makeup. This particular tutorial actually is going to be all M.A.C cosmetics. So if you are interested in buying these cosmetics, or if your local mall / department store carries them, this is where you can pick up these items, or you can go to their website. If you like how it looks on my face without actually having the opportunity to try it, you can also order it from their website. As I've said in other videos, I don't get paid to do these tutorials. This is just my therapeutic way of downtime while I'm on medical leave. In my other video, I mentioned that I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. I actually have 2 cancers in my right breast, and right now I'm just awaiting my surgery. And it's been really anxious for me to know when that happened. So rather than drive myself crazy, and while my husband is resting from when he comes from work, I normally would be at work at this time of day. I'm trying to be productive and have a little fun and do something that I'm pretty much passionate about doing. And that's sharing my techniques and the things I know and, have practiced over the years. So I'm going to go ahead and start my tutorial off. I always started off talking. I normally don't have music in my tutorial because I'm very much a talker. And I talk about all kinds of things, particularly the makeup, what my takes on it. So a lot of my videos are going to be tutorials and reviews, giving my personal opinions on what I'm using and just talking about things in general. So of course, start with a clean face. I started my face clean by utilizing these Garnier wipes. In other videos, I have used the micellar water, but because I'm doing a lot of makeup today, I don't always start my skincare regimen using the wipes and micellar water technique that I've shown in another tutorial. I'm just using the basic wipe because I pretty much removed all my makeup, and this is just to refresh my face. And I like to do that more or less in the morning to refresh my face and to make sure you got off all that remnants of makeup. Even if you think you removed it, there's always a little bit more on there. So I want to make sure that my face is completely clean before I start, because a lot of times I may use color eyeliner, color mascara, and if I'm doing a different look, I don't want remnants of that to interfere with the look I'm trying to create. So first and foremost, as I've started in every video, I always start with my eyeshadow. Today I decided to create my look based around fall. Now that it's November, I particularly like to wear burgundies in November. In prior videos, I do like orange, purple, and black, and gold. So those videos I kind of started at the end of October, beginning of November. But generally, a lot of my tutorials are going to be about, I'm inspired by color, season, holiday. So this is really basically a holiday inspired look that you could wear on Thanksgiving Day. You can wear it date night. You can wear it going out to the club. I basically am going to have a very neutral eye and a very bold lip. I'm not the biggest fan of matte lips. but this is basically my regular routine of how I gloss it. Maybe glossy lips will be back, but I will show some clips on some new lip products that are matte lips that I actually end up liking. So for girls who don't like the matte lipstick look, there are matte lipsticks out there that are really, really nice, that give you that illusion of matte lipsticks, and you can always blot your lips to do that. But I wanted to show you just some of my techniques. So I'm first going to start with my first item is basically, it's called I believe it's called a paint pot from M.A.C. It looks just like this. I would show what the name is, but I've had it so long you probably won't be able to see it. But the color that I'm going to start with, I've had this for years. It is a staple color to use as a base for an eyeshadow. I don't use it all the time, but with this particular eyeshadow, you're going to need some kind of base. I don't always use a base, but in this video, I kind of wanted to show this particular item that a base is good to use. Particularly, this particular base is very beigey, so that's why I don't always use a base, because I sometimes don't want to change the color of the eyeshadow I'm using. So, but this particular time I am going to do it, and I can't really recall if I've ever did it in the past with this particular eyeshadow, but I'm going to start off with my brushes. I've mentioned this in another video, Beauty 360. This is a tube of brushes you can get at CVS brand. There's about 5 brushes that come in it. I'm going to kind of put them in order to their size real quick, so you can kind of get a look to see what that looks like. But there's the 5 brushes. In this video, I only will be using probably, I want to say 3. This is the one for the lip. I will not be using that in this video because I'm going to be using a lip liner. And I won't be using this small eyeshadow brush. I'm going to be actually using my finger to apply my eyeshadow, so it won't be necessary for me to use those particular brushes in this video. So out of the 3 that came in that kit, I will be using this tiny eyeshadow brush to apply the paint pot to my eyelid. I don't really use my fingers. I only use my fingers with only certain eyeshadows. I explained that in another video, how I use my finger to apply a highlighter on my cheeks. I will be utilizing that eyeshadow here. So it's only 2 eyeshadows that I use that I would probably use just only my fingers. Normally I like to use brushes, and I like to use inexpensive brushes. I don't like to spend a lot of money on brushes. So I just applied a small amount of the paint pot to it. I got a little bit on the metal portion of it, but try not to do that because you don't really want to waste your product. I'm really big at not wasting product. And you know, because you know, MAC cosmetics are not one of the cheapest MAC items that you can find. They're not even the most expensive, but you know, any makeup you buy, you're spending your money. You don't want to waste not 1 cent of your money. So basically, you're treating the paint pot as if it's a primer. That's originally, before I bought any primers that I own in different brands, this was my original primer. I didn't use this one often because it is very beige and it does have color and pigment to it. And I can't remember why I bought this color. I mean, I bought it so many years ago when I lived in New York that half the time I don't even have nearly half the makeup I used to have, nor would I wear it at the age I am. I'm 37 years old, so some of the things I used to do when I was younger, I don't do now. So who knows why I bought this particular paint pot. I think the reason why I may have bought it is that some of the eyeshadows I was using had a lot of like very loose, and it would fall on my cheeks, and I didn't want pigment on my cheeks. This is when I was first learning how to do makeup, and I went to M.A.C and was like, I'm having this issue with when I apply some of my eyeshadows. I always have walked in to get cosmetic counseling with M.A.C salespeople, and they've always helped me. So I always recommend that if you ever have an issue with makeup, I don't work for them, but I highly endorse that any issue you're having, they are definitely there to help. Now, I'm not going to say every MAC counter you go to, there are helpful staff, because even locally where I live, I find the staff not to be as helpful, and it's kind of a little bit of a turnoff, but not so much of a turnoff because they're not helpful. It has turned me on to use a lot more store bought makeup, and I'll go to a store first before I go to MAC in the city that I live in. But like when I lived in New York, there were certain MAC stores I would go to. They were just so, people are so professional and so good at what they do that they were like my cosmetic counseling. So I would go in there, ask all kinds of questions, and I think one of the reasons why I bought this paint pot is simply I'm basically just wiping off my brush. I'm a stickler on keeping my brushes clean, because when I'm ready to use it, I don't want a dirty brush. Let's say like this brush I used on another tutorial for gold eyeshadow that I put only in the corner of my eye. So I use my brushes for many different things, and there are some brushes I use only for just that particular product. But in this case, with my tube of brushes, this one I use for all kinds of reasons, so it changes up often for me. But going back to the whole paint pot, the reason why I bought this is that when I bought it, I needed it as a base to whatever eyeshadow I was using to adhere to my eyeshadow. I wanted something that was going to do that. The reason why I don't always use it, if you can look at it, it's not really a primer, because a primer that I've used from a different brand that's in another tutorial, when I apply it, I actually apply that with my fingers because it comes in a tube. I apply that until it's invisible. So that is truly a primer, because a primer shouldn't have pigment. This has a little bit of pigment, but I don't mind the pigment that it has, because and I'm gonna go ahead and smooth a little bit more out, because I think I didn't get it close enough to my lash line. And there you go. I'm using my fingers in this case because I'm not really dipping my finger in my product. I don't really like to contaminate my product, but I will break a rule for something. So this particular eyeshadow I bought is also MAC. The name, I have to sometimes use my reading glasses because I'm that farsighted. The name is called Deeply Dashing. It is a pressed pigment. So what that means is, from what my understanding is, you don't want to use a brush, because pressed pigments, and I think that's the kind of eyeshadows I like. I love a sparkly eyeshadow, and when I was younger, that's all I would wear. And when you use a pressed pigment and you use it with a brush, it will have a lot of like makeup falling on this part of your skin. So that's one of the reasons why I start my technique off by utilizing doing my eyes first, just in case an eyeshadow does have that on there. You can always wipe off the makeup without ruining your foundation. So this is a good example for what a pressed pigment is. When you buy store-bought makeup, I'm just basically applying the makeup by just taking my finger and in a circular motion getting it on my fingers. The second part of my video is probably going to go ahead and feature about my eyes, but all I'm doing is pressing. It's called a pressed pigment, and what I'm doing is actually pressing the eyeshadow into my skin utilizing my finger. I'm utilizing my middle finger. You can use any finger you want, but I'm utilizing my middle finger because it's my biggest finger besides my thumb, and I want to get a lot of pigment on there. I'm not focused about getting into small corners, because this kind of eyeshadow will spread naturally on its own, and I talk a lot about in my videos about your natural oils in your skin. I don't mind when my eyeshadows crease, because it gives you that dimension. But a lot of my makeup ideas I try to be natural with it, but once this makeup sets, and that's really the key, it's really going to have a beautiful, beautiful effect that's just going to be really natural. with a little oomph, you know? So that's just one eye, and my second video, I'm going to show you the second eye, and then I'm also going to try to work my brows into it. So I'll be right back after, you know, in just a couple of seconds, if you look at my next part of my video. All right, I'll be right back.